Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hello. Look at all those beautiful smiles in January, bashing away the blues. So I thought we'd start before we get into your stories. And there's a really excitable audience here who want to learn lots from you and hear your honest kind of and humble beginnings with your startups. I wanted to get on the table a couple of quick thoughts. One was your favorite current startup that isn't your own. So we can spread the love. And secondly, a favorite tool that you've used in your startup to build your startup that's been super helpful, or a habit that you've worked on. So Anneka, I'm coming to you first.
Great. Do you want them both at the same time?
Go for it.
Cool. So my favorite startup is Beauty Pie. Beauty Pie is founded by Marcia Kilgore, and they are very much disrupting the beauty industry. So problem that she saw was beauty is really expensive. Luxury beauty is so expensive, and she has worked in that industry for years. So she was like, why can't the customer buy it basically at the cost price, or just a little bit higher than that? So they basically cut out the middleman of luxury marketing, store fits, and so you can basically sign up to a membership scheme where you get the best products made in the same factories as, you know, Chanel, Bobbi Brown, but you pay the cost price for it.
The genie's out the bottle when customers find out about things like that. So that's Beauty Pie, is it?
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. And I really recommend the products as well. So
fantastic.
And then couldn't get through, I think, our business without Canva. We love Canva and very thankful. Another female founder, Melanie Perkins. So I'm sure many people use Canva, but obviously it's incredible.
What has Canva helped you do at Recognized?
We use Canva a lot for our social media. I think obviously when you're a startup, you have limited resources and limited budgets. We don't have crazy budgets to be spending all the time on like content creation. So it's super helpful for making stories, making banners for our website. The best bit about Canva is the background remover. If you upgrade to Pro, it's amazing. So yeah, we use it for so much.
Yeah, probably the best £10 you spend each month. Yes. Farah, thank you. Great start. Farah, what about yours?
Hi. So in terms of startup, I love a company called Mama Made. They're an early stage startup that focus on nutrition for babies and kids. So think HelloFresh delivered to your door, but for kids' meals. And I just think it's revolutionary. I've not seen anything like it, certainly here in the UK. I think they're making some great strides. That's Mama Made. You should look up.
Mama Made,
Mama Made, and also female founded. So Sophie Barron is a superstar who co-founded the company. In terms of tool, I would say HubSpot. So for those of you who haven't heard of HubSpot, they've got different channels, whether it's marketing, sales, or otherwise. And they've got, for us, we use it for sales, for retail sales, to be able to track conversations, meetings, targets, etc., all the way to closure, winning a deal. So HubSpot is key for me.
Oh, great shout out for HubSpot. Jag, tell us about your favorite startup.
Hi guys, hope you're having a good evening. My favorite startup's actually in our sort of field, but they're based out in Canada and US, called Midday Squares. It started basically to shake up the entire chocolate industry and produce products with really clean ingredients and make chocolate a functional product rather than kind of only make it a naughty treat that it's sort of known as. And they're just literally putting the customer at the core. They're very content led, and basically the founders really wear their heart on their sleeve, and it comes through as an open and honest sort of way they communicate not only their values but their behind the scenes and the products and just the energy they bring into the space. It's infectious.
That is some customer love. Give us the name once more, Jag.
It's Midday Squares.
Midday Squares.
Yes.
Fantastic. And what about a tool or a habit?
A tool which we have used very often at Superfoodio is Fiverr, fiverr.com. An incredible tool for when you're very scrappy, early stage, trying to kind of when you have limited resources within your team. Sometimes a team is just an individual, and that's absolutely fine. That's where you can sort of lean into the power of Fiverr. Basically, you can outsource odd jobs or things that you may not be an expert at, but you can tap into people who live and breathe that world, and literally, as the website says, can be done for a $5.
Amazing. You all sound like advertising other people's businesses very, very well. Sarah.
Yeah, the pressure's on to get another good startup in there. Startup, so actually a bit like Anneka, beauty-based one. So Ruby, it's an app. It's like digital concierge for beauty treatments, and you could get like someone to come to your house to do your hair or your nails or a massage, or they even do like intimate wellness treatments. So they're super cool. And again, we're like properly plugging the female founders here, but a really cool female founder. So that would be the startup, Ruby. And tool or habit? I'll do a habit since everyone else has done a tool. So we're still a super small team, lean team, which we'll come on to when we talk about our story. But we start the team meeting the week with a team meeting. And if everyone comes to that with their clear kind of objectives, rather than we all have a million things to do, right? But rather than sharing a whole list of jobs, we all just say like 3 core focuses for the week. And then on our Friday check-in, we can kind of do highlights of the week and then see how we've got on with those 3 key things. I think has been a really good habit just to set us up, because I think when you're starting out, especially, and when you're a small team, you kind of get pulled in so many directions. So it's quite nice to really focus on 3 things and say like, yes, there's a million things going on, but these are the core things that I want to get done this week, and then checking in on them at the end of the week.
And the feel-good factor of actually achieving that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's that. If you can do that every week, that and every day, that's fantastic. That's an amazing routine to get into. Thanks for sharing, everyone. And as Alice just said, Ruby are part of our funded club, so that's nice. The other Theo here said there's lots of love for Canva. Theo said also ChatGPT is incredible in terms of semi-automation. So I'm seeing that tool, which is like AI search, kind of the beginning of like and how startups are using it in creative ways. So if you're curious about how bots are going to take people's jobs beyond graphic design, check out ChatGPT, have a play with it. All right, story time. So we've got a lovely crowd of people from all over the world who want to know how to start a business this year. You have all done it in the last few years, and I know it's not been easy, but you've all created something beautiful and impactful, and it's alive. So let's share those early stage stories. We'll just spend a bit of time on each story, and then we'll join up the conversation. So Anneka, if we can start with you and Recognize, take us back to that moment where the idea of Recognize bubbled up.
Yeah, well, mine's a little bit unusual because it was about 8 years ago. We started the brand 4 years ago. But 8 years ago, I was at uni, and I actually had a literal dream. So I went to sleep one night, and in my dream, I saw a woman who had depression walking into a supermarket. And at the till point, she saw another woman wearing a bracelet that had a dove on. And I saw the words, "I stand with you." And in that moment, the woman who had depression didn't feel as alone, and had this moment of hope and what we would call, recognition, and realizing I'm not the only one, someone understands. And that is really kind of the driving purpose of our business, is helping people feel seen, valued, and recognized when they need it most. And that leads to them not feeling alone. And so I had this dream. I wake up and I'm like, I've never had a dream like that before. So yeah, probably like 20 years old. Went back to uni that term. A load of my friends are struggling with their mental health. But we're talking 8 years ago, so people only talk about this once they've come through it. And so I've maybe had like 5 friends come up to me and tell me, Anneka, I've had depression for XYZ months. And one of my best friends said, Anneka, I've had depression for 3 months. And I was just so struck that she'd been struggling in silence, this person had been struggling in silence. And I just thought, everyone's struggling in silence. And it got me thinking about the dream. And I thought maybe there's something that you could wear or you could give to someone that would be a symbol of hope at a moment that they need it most, a small act that could make a really big difference in their life. And so, thought about my dream, and I was studying business and marketing. So I did a load of research, and everything I could find to do that was a horrible plastic wristband or a badge. And I just thought, I don't want to give that to anyone. It doesn't speak value to what you go through. If you give someone, plastic band who's, gone through cancer or struggling with their mental health. And so came up with the idea for statement pop-ons, which are our pendants. They all support different causes, and it's a super simple concept. You pick the jewelry base, which is either our bangles or necklaces, and then you pick one of our pop-ons. So I'm wearing the one for solidarity today, but you know, we support cancer, mental health, motherhood, racial equality, lots of causes that people would say they've experienced or can resonate with and need to be seen in. And we donate 100% of the profits from the pop-ons to our foundation, which deliver recognition projects to a series of charity partners across the UK.
What an amazing story. The idea that, you know, if you can dream it, you can do it is just, we all thought was just BS, but you have proven that you can wake up and turn something that's happened in your subconscious into a real world thing. Tell us a little bit about jewelry, Anneka. Are you a trained jeweler? How did you figure out how to make the first version, price it, reach your target customer, sell it, so you could then have a positive impact on these causes?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I actually get asked that question a lot because I'm not a jeweler at all. And actually, sometimes we discount ourselves from thinking we don't necessarily have the experience in a given industry. But I think the creatives and the best businesses out there are the ones that see things differently and bring a different set of skills into an industry, because they don't necessarily are held up by all the, you know, ceilings perhaps that you would if I'd approached it from a jewelry background. So I can't draw to save my life, but I am a hugely visual person. So I do work with a team that help bring the ideas to life, and I've obviously had to learn very quickly about the industry, and would say I know a lot about how to make good quality jewelry now. But you know, again, it comes back to, you know, I would call myself a social entrepreneur, and for Recognise, it's never actually been about jewelry. It's always been about finding ways, or we would say creative ways, to motivate people towards acts of compassion and help people show expressions of love. And so jewelry has been, you know, one meaningful way that's a meaningful gift to do that. We're currently exploring new meaningful ways to express our love to our friends, family, loved ones, and we're doing that through a whole new range of gifting products as well. So lots of new categories for me to start to understand as well.
Yeah, it's a lovely, you know, it's a bold, ambitious branding idea. Tell us briefly about how you got that first sale. What did you do?
The first ever sale. Oh, wow, yeah. So we launched online to begin with. We actually thought we were going to be a complete D2C brand when we started, which is, I think that was probably in the boom of, you know, D2C, and how we're a lot more wholesale now and retail than we are purely D2C.
So for those that have no idea about what those terms mean,
just break them down.
Yeah. No, don't worry, it's cool. Education is happening here.
Direct to consumer. So probably you'd explain that as a purely online brand, or you'll go direct to your consumer. So you're getting all the margin you possibly can from the product that you're selling. So yeah, I mean, I left just really quickly, had the dream at uni, couple of years I finished uni, went into marketing and events for a year. And every day I'd go into the office and be like, just keep thinking about this idea. And I would like start to every morning and evening write a business plan, you know, bookending my work day. And then I just started to meet with as many people as I could and just share the vision. And I think that's one of my top tips, is just start to speak out your vision and your dreams and what you want to do, because I think it just gives you accountability, but people can hold you accountable to it as well and encourage you on that journey and start to be like, oh, you know, when I started to talk about it, people would be like, oh, I know a jewelry designer, I can connect you with that person. And so it started to come together, and I basically ended up taking a real leap of faith, leaving my job. And then my husband left his job actually very soon after that, and he was working with consulting at the time. And we spent the summer of 2018 with the World Cup on. And it was a heat wave. I remember it being a heat wave. And we had 2 interns working with us. He must have been about like 16 and 17, like working for us, building our website. And we launched it on Shopify. And honestly, I think our first sale was like one of our friends or something. And I'll never forget. And that we launched August pre-orders, and then we launched World Mental Health Day with a big like public kind of launch. But you know, it's slow. It takes time. And I'll never forget the moment. It's a really funny story. We had our first real sale, aka not like a family or friend, trying to support our dream. And yeah, Joel, my husband, like came back in the front room and was like, do you know this person? And I was like, no, I don't know.
They've given us money.
And there's a really funny meme out there that I've seen on Facebook, and it says, you know, when you buy from a small business, an actual person does a little dance. And it's so true, isn't it? I you know, we've obviously scaled quite a bit now, but you know, if I do see those Shopify orders come through, I still will do a little dance. I'm so thankful for every order.
All right, so here's the challenge to our audience tonight. We drop recognize. In fact, there's 20% off. So if anyone buys anything in the next 25 minutes from any of these brands, they'll dancing. Well, first of all, you'll hear like a ringtone go off. Like we used to have the Pink Floyd Money track at Escape the City. When a sale went, it was like money. We love it, right? So if any sales in the next 20 minutes, product from people in the room, we will dance for you. There's it. I made a promise on your behalf, Anneka. Bring us
phone off airplane mode so I can hear them.
Yeah, don't turn the payment notifications off ever. Tell us, before we come on to the Hanx story, tell us about where the business is today. I know a lot has happened in between, but like, are you making a difference to these causes? What's the finances looking like? What's the product range looking like?
Yeah. Can you ask me that question one more time? Sorry.
Yeah. So where's recognized today as a business?
Yes. Where are we today? We're not where we were 4 years ago. And things that have happened that I've never dreamed would have happened. And I guess my encouragement to anyone watching today is, you know, just keep going, because you'll never think, oh, we would do that. You know, you look back and things that feel overwhelming now, you just, in one day they'll feel like a breeze, you know, and then there'll be another thing. But in terms of today, we are an omni-channel retailer. So we online, we're wholesale, we're retail. We do a lot of pop-ups across the UK and John Lewis, so they're one of our big partners. We are on a mission to become the world's most meaningful gifting brand, and we're driven by this purpose to help people feel seen, valued, recognised when they need it most. And we've recently launched the Recognise Foundation, which is helping to expand that purpose, essentially. So when you purchase with Recognise, that's coming very soon, you'll actually, when you buy any of our products, new products, but also, of course, our pop-ons, you'll actually be able to pick the project that you want to support. So everything from home-cooked meals for new mums or friends in hospital to our, we did this really cool thing in 2021. We took this giant wall of hope. It's giant. It's like 2.5 meters times 2.5 meters. We took it across the country to every John Lewis store, and it said messages of hope on, and you could write any message of hope to just any stranger walking by, and then you take one away with you. And, you know, people just come and stare at this wall and they're like, wow, that's exactly what I needed to read today. So that's, you know, we're putting those into hospitals, into, you know, cancer support hospitals, anywhere that you need hope. So there's lots of really fun creative projects that we're working on as well.
Oh, there's so many. The discipline around your creativity must be one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
Anneka, thank you for introducing Recognise. There is 20% off if you just go to the Recognise right now, January sales and all that, meaningful gifting, grab something now, and it will make a difference to the person you give it to and the cause that's behind it. Now, one of the best books on the Virgin bookshelf is called Screw Business as Usual, and I can't think of a better startup that sort of lives that out in the real world than Hanx. Sarah and Farah, we had a quick drink together at the Blue Earth Summit in October, and it was so great to hear an update on your amazing journey and the challenge that you've taken on with Hanx. But take us back to how you got together and decided sexual wellness and sustainability is going to be our mission.
Yeah, sure. And thanks for having us on. So Sarah and I are actually friends from childhood. So we grew up together. We went to the same school together. We couldn't keep away from each other and ended up at the same university together even. So we both went to Durham and were flatmates as well. I studied finance and sort of went down a separate career where I sort of spent over 7 years at Goldman Sachs, and Sarah studied medicine, but we do go way back. So we know each other inside out, a bit like a married couple, but yeah, I'll let Sarah give the background.
Married couple. But as lots of you all know, having a co-founder relationship, you do need to, it is like being a married couple, and you have to really, really trust who you're working with. So so we go way back. I studied medicine and worked as a doctor in the NHS, and my kind of specialty was obstetrics and gynecology with a special interest in sexual health. So the time we thought of Hanx, I was working in sexual health clinics and seeing the rise of, you know, difficult to treat STIs and irritation from products people are using. So women coming in and kind of having recurrent thrush or irritations down below because of products. And it made us think, you know, women in particular, you know, we know everything that goes in our skincare regime, everything that goes in and on our bodies, but no one would stop and look at the back of a lubricant label or don't really know what's in their condoms. And that literally, you know, can affect things. So we thought, actually, there's no brand out there really speaking to us, to women, that's sustainable, as well as being, kind to the body, kind to the planet. So we thought, actually, Hanx needs to exist. And also this, just sexual and intimate wellness as a whole, very much a taboo space, especially here in the UK. You know, people don't really want to talk about it. They don't really want to, you know, condoms have such negative connotations, yet they're the only, you know, contraceptive that also protects against STIs. And, you know, we thought as a brand, we could really change that and make a difference, open the conversation, smash stigmas, and support with education, as well as create products that people actually want to buy, carry and use. So yes, we started, we kind of launched, I mean, this was like over a couple of bottles of wine.
And when you looked at the market opportunity, because it's, you know, from the outside, you look at the dominance of a brand like Durex, and then you look at the scale of obviously demand and need for better products in this space. Yeah. Did you just get super excited that, wow, there's a huge opportunity here?
Yeah, and I mean, I think, you know, obviously naively as well, you know, we can go up against the big boys, but ultimately that there hasn't been any innovation in that space for such a long time, and they haven't needed to innovate because they've just dominated that market. But there's so much wrong with it, and there was so much we could see that needed to improve. The way, you know, the garish packaging, promoting a man's conquest, very, very, not inclusive marketing or product development. So we kind of very much looked into the market before we quit our day jobs and spent our life savings on condoms. It was, you know,
so you literally, you pulled your funds and you said, right, we're going to make the first version of a new type of condom. Let's go.
Yeah. You go.
And even before we quit our day jobs, we wanted to make a calculated risk if there was actually a market in it. And as far as we could see, no one was doing this in Europe. There were a few great players in the US who are a few years ahead of us, but no one was speaking to women in the way that we wanted to and that they should, like a brand that's really relatable. And, you know, as Sarah said, the category is super stale and they've never had to really innovate because they think that it's just men that buy products, when actually 40% of purchases of condoms are women. So that's nearly half the market that they're missing an opportunity on. So we surveyed women to find out what they wanted to and really figured if there was an opportunity here. And the output of that survey was that women do want a product that is kinder to the body, kind to the planet. They don't want Johnny Big Boy on the front of a pack or something that's gold and bright. They want a brand that's really relatable and has the aesthetic of something like a beauty product. So that's kind of
you did that customer development, which gave you confidence. How did you get your first sales?
Again, a little bit like Anneka, we were like, we're going to be a D2C brand. It was definitely the time of, you know, everyone's D2C brand. It's the way to do it. But so we started Shopify again, was great. We kind of launched, and our first sales very much, we tracked absolutely everything. We worked in a co-working space at the time and had a lot of support from the community there. So kind of, it was very much word of mouth initially. We didn't have we'd spent our money on buying the product and the stock. So we didn't have huge budgets to market. So it was very word of mouth initially. And so having this community of other startups or other people who kind of in the space and spreading the word like that through family, friends, you know, everyone, was kind of how we got our first customers. We also actually were in the Daily Mail. That was, you know, not a dream of ours, but but it happened. And
they have an audience. How did you get that bit of PR?
We actually did get some support with that. So we got some external support. But yeah, we never read the comments in the Daily Mail, but we did get a good influx of customers through that. And this was back when Farah and I were packing the orders ourselves, right? So, you know, we were like, oh my God, there's loads of sales have suddenly come in. It's because the Daily Mail was live.
And then what happened next? Because obviously then you get real feedback. You see how your product's doing in the market. How did you go from that initial first version into the sort of, you know, the suite, you know, into contraceptives and also, you know, across a range of products now? How do you decide where to go next?
Yeah, so after we launched condoms and lubricants, I think a couple of true indicators of success were obviously getting first batch of customers, press that wanted to talk about us, and then most importantly, retail. And that was a key trust point for us, for condoms and lubricants to sit on shelf next to the likes of the big players, instills that trust and authority to consumers. And what really excited us was that these customers were actually coming to us and messaging us and telling us how they've been looking for a product like this, something that doesn't have nasty chemicals. And they were being really open about their health and their views, and even asking Dr. Sarah questions through email. And it got us thinking that there's a real gap for a sense of community in taboo topics, and not just in sexual health, really the whole of women's health. There's actually no brand out there that connects the milestones of women's health, whether it's your first period, your first time having sex, your first child, menopause, or beyond. And so starting with sexual health was just the beginning of that. And actually there's a real clear opportunity here, especially with Sarah's experience as a gynae doctor and 7 patients, to better women's health. So beyond the condoms and lubricant, we were thinking about what else women want, and ultimately it's choice. And so we know not everyone uses condoms forever, and therefore having hormonal birth control that you would get from your GP, you can actually now get directly from us, offering that convenience element that we can dispense same day, and also vaginal health treatments and morning after pills. So we definitely want to develop on that proposition beyond just sexual health, really tap into the milestones of other areas of women's health. But that's what led us go from just being the condom girls to choice for women.
I'm sure no one called you the condom girls, but that is
really.
It's and this sort of focus on community, because we talk about it a lot as a tactic, as an impact tool, as a marketing tool in startups. But how has it? Are you glad you've gone down that path in terms of bringing people together? Has it helped your business as well as helped the people in that group?
Yeah, community is not a quick win. It's something that takes time to develop, and it's not something that you can artificially create. And that's something we've organically built over time. So even though we've built physical products that sit within retail and you can sell online, the community aspect has built over time and slowly. And what's helped build that community is the openness of our customers and those early adopters that want to tell us. And we put out surveys and questionnaires quarterly, and they're really honest with what they want in the brand and what they don't like and what they would like to see. And I think the other point is content. So again, as Sarah was saying, like back, when she was in sexual health clinics, there is a lack of education within sexual wellness and other taboo areas. So whilst also selling physical product, we've built a real engine of content online, from anything from sexual health to fertility to relationships to life. And the second thing to supplement that is a chat room that we've got. So it's a bit like Mum's Net, but without your mum. And that's where people can really ask for advice, recommendations, and that sense of advocacy comes in place because it's the community that respond to that. So almost giving our customers the additional tools to ensure that we're a brand that isn't just there to push product down your neck. It's actually an education hub to supplement your learning.
That's brilliant. And I think what's great about all the 3 stories and brands we've got tonight is they're all engaging an audience in conversations that perhaps have been historically difficult to have, whether it's around mental health or sexual wellness, or like the food that we eat, our diets, and how many people want to embrace this stuff but haven't been given permission. I remember chatting with Billy Quinlan, who's the founder of an app called Furly, which I'm sure you know about, building this amazing community of women from around the world talking about their sexual experiences and how they supporting each other, and it's just brilliant to see that you guys exist. Final question before I come on to Superfoodio. What's been the biggest challenge? Like, where's Hanx got up to? What's the challenge at the moment that you're kind of like focused on?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of little challenges as a startup. We're probably painting it in a very, pretty light, but the reality is there's lots of day-to-day challenges, whether that's getting orders shipped across to Boots ASAP or otherwise. I think one of the wider challenges for us is fundraising, especially as a female-founded company, and we know that already sort of less than a penny of every pound of VC funding actually goes to women in the UK, and B, because we're a brand that is in a very taboo area, and it's seen as taboo, and therefore it makes it quite difficult to get that funding over the line, particularly with VCs. Having said that, a lot of our investors to date have been angels who are customers, who've actually reached out to us and said, love the brand, are you taking investment? So there's swings and roundabouts to it, but that is an ongoing challenge, especially in this climate.
And it must be so frustrating when you've got the numbers and the vision to, and the evidence that kind of proves that you're already on a great path. Okay, so we've got to keep backing these brilliant startups. One tech sex question that has popped up in the chat here. Let me go back to it because we've got to get these ones answered. Do you support people who have latex allergies?
So this is a question we get asked a lot, actually. So a lot of, I mean, it's less than 1% of the population are actually truly allergic to latex. And a lot of people, I used to see in particular, they thought they were allergic to latex. And actually when they looked into it, there's a lot of the chemicals or the anesthetics, the spermicides, the different things that are in the products that were actually causing the irritation that they thought was an allergy, interestingly. But there obviously are true latex allergies out there. We don't currently, the difficulty with that, we're never saying never, but obviously it's plastic. So it'd be, there's two different kind of forms of plastic that you use instead of latex. So we haven't yet, but we hear you and we know there's a market there. We don't want to, ignore that you exist for sure. So if it's a true latex allergy, then we don't currently stock non-latex, but it is as natural as you can get. So just check that the latex allergy is legit.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah. And on that sustainability point, how are these? Because obviously the assumption is that condoms are, single-use plastic of the worst kind, right? So what are Hanx doing differently?
So it's all natural latex, 100% natural. So straight from the latex plant itself, fair traded, sustainably sourced. But we don't use any kind of animal byproducts in production. So casein are in a lot of the kind of normal latex condoms because they make it more manageable, and that's a milk derivative. We don't use that, so we're vegan certified, and we don't use, as we've mentioned, a lot of the chemicals that are in a lot of the other traditional products, and therefore we can biodegrade. So we are whereas we're on a kind of B Corp pending as well, so kind of very much this is ingrained in our business, and our we're very signed up to the sustainability angle of what we're doing. So the packaging is just recycled and recyclable. The foil for the product is a medical device, so like the foil for the condom is still foil. We can't get around that at the moment. Obviously, hopefully things will develop in the near future to help with that, but so we're not by no means perfect, but doing kind of as much as possible. And like I say, the natural latex is biodegradable.
Well, there's a lot of love in the chat for Hanx, as there has been for Recognise. So no pressure on Jag. But talking of putting good things in your body, Jag, Superfoodio has been doing this for a little while. Take us back to the beginning of your journey with Nirali and what happened to get this idea off the ground. Absolutely.
Firstly, super inspiring founders that are on the panel, so no pressure at all. So Nirali and I, we're actually a husband and wife team and founders of Superfoodio. So Sarah and Farah totally relate because we're living and breathing that. And now we have our own mini CEO in our 3-year-old daughter, Amani. So we answer to a real boss. It's our 3-year-old. But winding the clock right back of how everything came to be. So both Nirali and I are not from the food and drink background at all. My background is in strategy consulting, and Nirali's background was in corporate psychology. So very, very far from what we're doing today. But it was about 6-7 years ago now. That we decided to press pause on our corporate careers and do something that we've been really passionate about doing, and that was traveling. So one place where we hadn't traveled together was South America. So we sort of said, hey, you young ones, before life's commitments come onto your plate, why not take this time to follow our real passion? And that was traveling and adventure. So we mapped out pretty much about a 6-month itinerary to travel all over South America. So we started in Argentina, where we went top to bottom, trekking the Patagonia all the way down to the most southern point, which is called Ushuaia. That's basically called Fin de Mundo, meaning end of the world. And it's the most incredible landscape out there. And just before I go on to the full adventure, I'll start off with a caveat of the fact that we both have always been on a plant-based diet, to the point where I've actually never even eaten an egg. I don't know what an egg or an omelette tastes like.
Well, this is a whole other conversation we have to have about your childhood and what happened. So tell us, so you had this big adventure, and then how did Superfoodio, how was it born from it?
Yeah, so one of the key challenges we were going to face was what we were going to eat while we were out there, because we were basically tracking between 10 and 15 kilometers a day for 5 odd months of our trip. So, you know, food and nutrition was going to play a massive part in our journey. And as I mentioned, we were plant-based. First stop, we were flying from London into Buenos Aires, and Argentina is known as the steak capital. So we're like, oh God, what are we going to do? So we'd pack one backpack with our essentials, you know, clothes and the likes, and another one with camping food, basically tins of beans and a lot of energy bars and balls and stuff like that. And thinking, oh, we'll have to survive on this and any meal we can find as we go. But one thing we realized is the more remote areas we traveled into, so from Argentina, then we went up to Brazil, where we entered the Amazon for a couple of weeks, you know, lived very, very rural, very remote areas with local people, local tribesmen, and people who live in the jungle, eating berries, and then on to Bolivia, where we stayed in a spare room. This was, you know, the poor man's Airbnb, where we paid back the farmer by doing potato and quinoa farming for him for staying in his spare room, basically. And that was sort of what made us realize that, you know, our sort of thinking that, oh, we're going to struggle for food, we'd hardly touch any of the products we'd taken along with us. Because what we realize is the more remote parts of in our travels, people actually lived off the earth and ate a lot of plant-based foods anyway. And when we mentioned, you know, we had to learn, you know, a bit of Spanish, Portuguese, and Quechua to make sure I'm communicating clearly that, oh, I'm vegetariano, no huevo, means no egg. People are like, oh, see, don't worry, we've got plenty of choices for you here. And they would be so keen and eager to show what they're cooking and what they eat and how it benefits them. So, like, you know, learning about why the acai berry is so popular in hot and humid countries, or say in the jungle, is because it actually cools your temperature down, your body temperature, and it gives you natural energy without like sort of carb loading you. Because last thing you want is, you know, to eat a big bowl of pasta and then continue sort of walking and sweating your way through a jungle. You know, you need to be kind of cool, hydrated, full of good energy and fuel to kind of make sure you're, you know, you're going to reach your sort of your destination before it's nightfall. Because trust me, you don't want to be walking through a jungle once the daylight goes. And that's sort of where we were sort of writing notes in our on our iPad, and looking back, that's actually what turned into version 1 of our business plan. Because what we realized is we learned so much about food and nutrition and how people live off the land in a sustainable manner, sort of knowledge that we didn't have in our sort of, you know, busy 9-to-5 London life. You know, we ate what we ate, you know, we had our shopping list, we'd go into Tesco, Sainsbury, Waitrose, whatever it is, you know, picked up, oh, feel like Mexican tonight, or whatever it is, you know, you bought that without ever thinking about, where does this ingredient come from, or how sustainable is it to eat this food, or looking at the excessive packaging that was, you know, a few years ago before the whole sort of awareness of the spotlights kind of come into the FMCG.
So Jag, you had this amazing life-changing adventure together. You came back and you created Superfoodio. By the way, the mission is one of my favorites of any food brand. We're on a mission to create plant-based treats for pleasure, people, and the planet. It's very clear. but actually delivering on that is not easy. So just I'm conscious of time. There's a few more questions I want to squeeze in. So just bring us up to date with the business, because consumer vegan healthy food snacking is such a noisy space. We've seen so many brilliant ones. How have you managed to get Superfoodio established and to the point where it is today?
Absolutely. So, I mean, sort of fast forwarding the hard work that had to go into getting to this point. Basically, the idea of what we currently sell through online and our various channels was inspired by our daughter. In lockdown 1.0, she absolutely was a fiend of eating peanut butter. But one thing that I realized is peanut butter has been stuck in the jar since it was first developed, since the 1800s. And I was like, okay, you can only ever have peanut butter kind of at breakfast category, if you will. So you'd need a toast or a bowl of porridge, etc., to enjoy it. How we were snacking on peanut butter for Amani, my daughter's name, is we were dotting it on bananas and apples and giving it to her as a treat. And that got me thinking, saying, if chocolate can exist in, as a hot chocolate, a chocolate bar, or it can be used as an ingredient, why can't peanut butter? And basically, literally in my home kitchen, started developing peanut butter that you can hold in your hand and it won't melt. And basically came up with a peanut butter button. So it's like pure peanut butter, no chocolate involved, that you can hold in your hand and it doesn't melt. And literally managed to scale the recipe during lockdown and launch a year ago now to what has become the fastest selling snack.
How many buttons have you sold?
Well, we're about to produce our 1.5 million buttons.
That's a lot of
production run next week.
And how many have you eaten?
I probably haven't eaten as many as my daughter, to be fair, but
Amani is like this 5'3" 3-year-old.
Yeah,
Jag is also about 70 years old, by the way. Two specific Superfoodio questions from our audience, okay? And then we're going to widen this conversation out for the last few minutes. So David wants to know, how do you source cocoa ethically? Try and answer that in 30 seconds.
Sure. So it's basically by working with partners who are accredited and making sure we're doing things the right way. Our mission has always been about, keeping things simple, working with the right people, paying fair wage, and sourcing our products in an ethical and sustainable manner. So we work with our production partner who has all the accreditation and sort of guarantees and certificates in place that ensure us that whatever we're sourcing is fully traceable.
Fantastic. And Dwara, is curious about how you landed the offering an assortment of mostly sweet snacks rather than savory, and is there a plan to switch?
Well, interestingly, like one pack of our peanut butter buttons only has 3 grams of sugar, so it is disguised as a confection. However, it doesn't have as much sugar as your traditional confection. Like if you look at a chocolate equivalent, you're probably going to be eating between 30 and 40 grams of sugar in a serving, whereas ours has between 2 and 4 grams of sugar. So
there we good. Feel good. We can be Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and not commit a sin.
That's
we have
it.
Superfoodio and Hanx. I recognize there's some kind of super group of startup brands here for a healthy and happy life for sure. So just as we've got 10 more minutes together, I wanted to zoom in on a couple of key aspects of how to start a business for our audience. So first up, fundraising. You've all done versions of it. Anneka, I know you've been through a bunch of fundraising journeys. Tell us what you've learned and what's your advice to someone who's thinking about launching now and has to get some kind of funding to get it off the ground?
Yeah, great question. What have I learned? I think I've learned it always takes longer than you think it's going to take. I think I've learned you can't outsource. I've learned this actually applies to fundraising, but it also applies to a lot of things. You can't outsource your decision-making process. And I think really early on, you get a lot of people who are more experienced with you, say in fundraising, say in finance, whatever area it is. And of course, you as a fresh entrepreneur, you want to take all the advice you can get and that's amazing, take the advice. But I think as I've grown in confidence and as we've grown in experience with the business, I've really started to realize that I'm the one who holds the responsibility, legally and not just legally, but it's our business, and you just got to trust your own decision. And I think that applies to fundraising as well, because we're currently fundraising. I've sat in 3 different meetings this week with 3 different opinions on which way we should go, and it can obviously feel quite overwhelming, quite confusing. Do I do crowdfunding? Do I do angels? Do I do VCs? And I think, they've all got their pros, they've all got their cons, and I think it's taking all the best, but really sitting with it and not being afraid to take time to make the right decision. Yeah.
And tell us briefly about the type of funding that you saw. So you've done loans, angels. What have you done so far?
Yeah, wherever we can find money, we'll find it. So very early days, cool story, had an angel investor. I think we'd gone out to the rich list that we thought we knew, got a load of no's. And honestly, in the 11th hour, someone just turned around to us and said, honestly, we didn't even know she had money. She just turned around and said, I see so much light in this business and I want to invest. And that was a really cool moment. And she came in as our first angel, and put in a small amount of money. Obviously, she got a really good deal on that at the very early stages. And then all of our investors since then, we've done a couple of raises there, all angel investors, but a lot of them now are kind of more professional investors as well. But we've been talking smaller chunks, so kind of sub 350 grand. Whereas now we're kind of gearing up for a much bigger race of how we go about that.
You say smaller chunks, Anneka, but a lot of people listening will go, 350,000, that's significant. Okay. But that's what happens with business, right? It grows.
Can I just add to that, though?
Yeah.
In that it's taken me, and I don't know whether this is I would be interested, conversation for another time, to explore whether this is just being a female founder, but it's taken me a long time to have the balls for a bigger amount. And I don't, that's a bigger conversation, but me and my female founder friends will talk about that. Is there a reason you don't want to go for that bigger amount? Whereas I think a lot of my male founder friends will be so much quicker to go for that bigger amount.
Yeah, that's 2,000 years of being dominating through the patriarchy, I guess, that's given that confidence. But yeah, we're changing that, right? Virgin Startups doing 50-50 of funding for first stage, early stage founders. You guys are all proving that it's possible, but it is harder. And moving back to Farah, you mentioned the challenge of fundraising for what is a really successful and brilliant disruptive consumer brand at Hanx. What have you learned so far in terms of your fundraising journey?
Speak to as many people as you can, and anyone that will listen to you, even if they're not necessarily labeled as an investor, because often they can either help you on other elements of your business or know someone that can invest.
So give us an example of that, because I think this is so crucial, this link between random conversations then leading, as Anneka's example, to an investment.
Yeah, so go to networking events, build on any founder communities that you're part of. Go to and if you're not working a co-working space where there is often a community like Huckletree, and they'll have events, go to those events, speak to people, meet people. Yes, networking can be exhausting, but you never know who you might meet. And that has happened a number of times with us, where we've met someone who loves the brand, doesn't invest personally, but has come across 8 months later and said, actually, I've got an investor who might be interested. And also think outside the box. Most people get LinkedIn mail, most people get emails. So either, if they're the only route you can go down, make sure your subject title is really punchy so that it stands out. Understand who you're speaking to as well. What do they tend to invest in? If they invest in SaaS and tech businesses, they're fairly unlikely to want to invest in a consumer business. So do your research. And when I say think outside the box, don't just rely on LinkedIn and email. We DM'd one of our investors who is a notable figure in fashion, and he actually ended up investing in the company. So yeah, be creative. Be
creative, absolutely. Top of emails, signature of emails, in chat rooms like we're having right now. This is the way you do it. And that blurring of lines, I think that you've all shared tonight between customer, investor, supporter, future product development team member, I think is when the sharing of your journeys, as we're all doing, is such a big valuable support for growing businesses. Jag, on fundraising, what have you done with Superfoodio?
Interestingly enough, we're self-funded to date, which is means we've grown slowly, but it has allowed us to kind of really like tighten up our proposition, and to the point where I think we've gotten quite a bit of traction. You know, we've got a national listing at the co-op, and what we're now finding is that the conversation, people are approaching us to fund and sort of wanting to invest in us, which you know, sometimes you may think or feel that, you know, funding is the first thing you need to tap into. But remember, you know, if you think about pushing your penny or your you know, your cents to go as far as you can initially, they can actually, you know, be worth a lot, you know, and make these kind of conversations about fundraising a lot easier. So yes, we grew slowly in the few years that we kind of were out there, and sort of seeing other people trailblaze and do what they do really well. It is fantastic with other people's money, but you know, when you really work hard on building your own self, and then you kind of get that momentum coming towards you for people asking you to invest in your brand and your business. You know, you hold a lot of weight, and suddenly those conversations can feel a lot easier to have, which I'm sure the other guys can tell you they aren't easy conversations at the best of times.
Yeah. The best time to raise is when you don't need the money, right? It's the same as dating. It's like people are attracted to people who aren't looking for love, right? Now, talking of love, Dr. Sarah, how have you figured out, and this is a question for all of you, because you've all got very strong mission-driven businesses that are trying to educate people and get them engaged with the causes and the problems you're trying to solve. How do you decide with your messaging what to put forward? Because you're the medical expert. Are you pushing, saying, hey, Farah, I think we need a lot more education on this? Or are you saying, okay, I get it, we've got to just go back to the old classic sex memes and jokes that we know will spread in order to get attention? How do you decide what the focus is?
And you mean to our audience or to investors? Or
to your audience, yeah.
And look, our brand has evolved over time, and this is something that we kind of struggled with at the beginning in terms of like, we knew what we wanted to convey, but especially for us, right? We're a medical device, we're a medical company, we're going up against a brand that people know, household name. Why would people come and try a condom from us when they might get pregnant, got an STI, or, you know, have some reaction to our product? So trust was huge. So we really focused on that from the beginning, and education comes with that. Obviously, my background, we've got gynae experts that you know, support our content and everything. So that's been a key strand of our brand. But sex should be fun, and, you know, all the stuff we're talking about should be, you know, we need it to be accessible and people to actually open up and understand and relate to what we're talking about, rather than feel like your teacher or your doctor that's talking to you. So there's a real balance, like especially with Hanx, I think, to get that right. And we've kind of evolved over time, but I think we're doing a really good kind of job now in terms of our tone of voice and getting the messaging across. So absolutely, there's a balance, and I think that it's always changing, and always need to check in, and, you know, as we launch new products, or, you know, the landscape changes, and then obviously that comes into it too. But I think just being really clear about, you know, your key mission and goals as a business and what you stand for, then you can't go too far wrong. You know, sustainability, sexual wellness, education, fun.
Yeah, and then you emphasize those different core messages at different moments, depending on the campaign, the type of audience, etc., and the situation. Anneka, quickly, in terms of the double message that recognize it, so beautiful, brilliant, sustainable jewelry, and supporting these important causes, how do you decide which one to push?
Yeah, well, I completely agree with Sarah about purpose and evolving. It completely does evolve over time. We obviously have multiple competing messages and multiple competing causes. You know, if you look at the calendar day, we've got Mother's, I think in October we have World Mental Health Day, Anti-Slavery Day, it's Black History Month, I think breast cancer.
There's a lot of shit to care about.
A lot. So you're like, oh my gosh, and how do you, and obviously you send a customer too many emails, those unsubscribe rates go up. So I think that is a challenge. I think lots I could say, but the most effective thing we've ever done, and I think some of the best brands out there do this, not to hoot my own horn at all, but I learned from other brands in this, is to simplify it for the customer. And so at the very beginning, obviously, you have so much you want to say about your brand and you know it so well, but how do you basically turn that into about 5 words for a customer to understand? And the first year we just didn't get it right. And then I was really inspired by Build-A-Bear, which if anyone remembers Build-A-Bear, you go in, you pick your bear, you pick your fluff, pick its outfit. And actually we just made it like that for our customers. We said, step 1, you pick a base. Step 2, you pick a pop-on, you know, the cause you want to support. And step 3, you recognize someone. And we made that so simple. Website, in-store, every ambassador will say that to a customer. And our sales just went like that. It just completely changed the way that they could understand it. So I think if in doubt, just really simplify it. And imagine you're talking to a 5-year-old, you know, what are the 3 things they need to know? And go from that. That'd be my top 2.
That's great advice for everyone. And it's also a reminder that most people, by the time they get to you, your landing page, your shop front, looking at your product, they're already interested. They kind of just want to know, how do I go about the process of, you know, why is this matter? And how should I use it? I'm going to squeeze in a final question, even though we're overrunning, but there's so much value coming out of this. The final question for all of you is, how do you get through the tough moments? So, you know, we've had a pretty positive storytelling session tonight, but I know that you've all been through a hell of a lot to get this far, and you've sacrificed a lot to get to where you are today. And you know, there's many challenges ahead. When it's really hard, when you have genuine blues about your business, you think, I wish I was in a safer job, I wish I was doing something else. How do you mentally pull yourself out of that rut? Jag, do you just pop another 10 peanut buttons and that pulls you back up?
Pretty much. I was just going to say, there's an easy solution.
Yeah,
Always
the solution is our product.
Choose the brown pill. No, you know what? We are incredibly lucky because as a food product, you know, everyone needs to eat. And what tends to happen is, you know, your products get into people's hands, and sometimes you don't even realize the impact you have on people's lives, which is incredible, because the DMs or the emails that we get from people who are enjoying our product, that has changed their life for them. Just a couple of weeks ago, we received an email from a mum saying that this is the first product she can kind of give with confidence to her kid who has type 2 diabetes. And they took the peanut butter buttons into snacks for the movies, and that she just wanted to drop us a quick line to say a big thank you and continue to do what we do. So
you write it down, you stick it on the wall, and you're like, there it is.
Absolutely. It is humbling to think that, you know, something that I created literally in my home kitchen is making such a big impact in the world. And I just keep reminding myself that it's a bigger thing than just one person. And that's the mission that we need to focus on with Superfoodio.
That's a great answer, Jag. And Farah, what about you? When the going gets tough, what happens?
Yeah, I think really similar. Even looking at customer...
You have how many peanut buttons?
Well, do you know what? You won't know this, but Sarah and I actually survived off spoonfuls of peanut butter in the early years. Like, there were actual jars that we would eat through to just, you know, get the business off the ground.
See, I knew these products related.
We need to sort this out.
Oh, yeah. We just need Pippa Murray here as well, right?
Yeah,
we do. It was actually her jars that we lived off initially.
There you go.
I think the only other thing I'd add is, like, it's like, be kind to yourself. It's okay if you have a wobble. It's okay if you need to cry. It's all right if you go psychotic and need to go on a giggling fit. Like, totally normal, because it is absolutely crazy running a business and it's high pressure. So giving yourself a bit of self-love whilst in the moment of madness is okay.
Yeah, and go and gift yourself a nice new necklace that helps someone else out, or a product like that. Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, I think it's a roller coaster, and I think, you know, don't beat yourself up that you're having these down days. It's totally normal. Embrace it, but get yourself a co-founder. It really helps. You know, when I'm down, Farah lifts me up, vice versa. So it is helpful having someone else that you can talk to that's in that situation, right? Obviously, in this literally together, but you know, if it's not a co-founder, it's someone that you can just kind of go and vent to, and it's just, you know, things will change. It's constantly up and down. So just, yeah, knowing that and getting the right support, I think, is super important, because it is
fantastic. Anneka, what's your solution to the getting out the dip?
Yeah, all of those, and something that's really helped me in the last year is quite inspired by Simon Sinek, which is all about taking the long view and knowing that I'm actually trying to build something that's going to last generations. And actually quick isn't necessarily best, and fast isn't necessarily, you know, best as well. And I think that's a lie we can often buy into. But knowing that you've got time, like if you've got, particularly if you've got a purpose, it's like, what is that purpose? And that's actually your measure of success. And so it doesn't need to be done tomorrow. It doesn't even need to be done in a couple of years. It could be done in over 30, 40, 50 years. The best businesses are actually the ones that, you know, last the longest. And so I think as a founder, it's just stay in the game as long as you possibly can. And also really practically, if you ever see me wearing a white shirt, it's because the previous day I've had a bad day. I've done it ever since university. I call them white shirt days. I just dress smarter and I feel better. I don't know why, but it works. So
that is the tip that everyone's going to leave this conversation with. White shirt days. Now, Jag, we said up front, if anyone buys anything and then declares it on here, the founder's going to dance. So Tanya's just said, love the stories, just order some PB buttons. I add it to almost every minute. There he goes.
Yes.
I'm sure everyone's bought other products. Yes. So there's 20% off with Virgin, the word Virgin, obviously for Hanx, but also for Superfoodio. And it's 20% off regardless if you go onto the recognized site now, because it's January and that's what's happening. There is also another event coming up. Alice has shared just up here, 3 exciting change makers all looking at the future. So register for that next month. I'll be back for it. And we are now going to go over to sessions. So I'm going to meet Andy over there. So all of you have been sharing your work, your ideas, your projects, and your questions. If you meet us in sessions, navigate over there in a minute's time, and you can come and share them with us and see if we can help out. Farah, Dr. Sarah, Jag, and Anneka, thank you. This last hour has been the best hour in January for me from a work point of view, and I'm sure it has for lots of other people listening in tonight. So thank you for building what you've done and sharing your stories tonight, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.